This is a land that time has passed by. Some of these islands are virtually unexplored, but the waters in between are a sea of surprises. This is the largest fish in the world. It can weigh more than 18 tons. That's as much as 6 elephants. Another great voyage is about to begin.
Major funding for nature is provided by the Park Foundation, dedicated to education and quality television. Major corporate support is made possible by Canon in our dedication to the preservation of nature and its never-ending beauty. In photographs, you can capture the wild and leave it as you found it. By Ford Motor Company, we turned large areas of this plant complex outside Mexico City into a natural refuge for waterfowl, amphibians, and desert flora. Ford Motor Company, better ideas driven by you. And by TIAA-CREF, meeting your personal investing needs with mutual funds, tuition savings plans, investments for retirement, insurance, and more. TIAA-CREF, ensuring the future for those who shape it. And by annual financial support from viewers like you.
Mysterious and unexplored, the seas that lap the shores of India hide many a natural treasure. The boatyard at Veraval, a piece of living history. This is a timeless scene. Boats have been made here on the northwest coast of India for thousands of years using the same methods. Seafaring is in the very blood of these people. 2,000 years ago, this area was already famous as traders came in from the west to buy gold and spices, ivory and jewels, apes and peacocks, and even the occasional tiger. Wind and current carried those early navigators down the Malabar coast and round the southern tip of India, then north and east to the Bay of Bengal and the isles of the Andaman Sea. Let's follow in their path and ride the ocean currents through these unknown seas. Early explorers came home with fanciful tales of sea monsters. But giants of the deep still swim in the waters of the Arabian Sea. This is the largest fish in the world. It can grow to 15 meters and weigh more than 18 tons. That's as much as 6 elephants. Its mouth is wide enough to swallow a man whole, but it actually feeds on some of the tiniest creatures in the sea. The whale shark is a plankton eater. As it cruises slowly below the surface, hundreds of gallons of water pass into its mouth and out through its gills. Every gulp sucks in countless minute plants and animals. The whale shark grows huge on this thin planktonic soup. From Veraval, ocean currents sweeping south bring us to the first of our island landfalls, Lakshadweep. A chain of 36 coral islands, Lakshadweep lies some 300 kilometers off the coast of India. Most are so small you can walk around them in less than an hour. Many of the islands are uninhabited. With their coral reefs and turquoise lagoons, their white sands and palm-fringed beaches, they look like classic treasure islands.
But if you did bury treasure here and tried to find it some years later, it would be nearly impossible. And you can see what is happening. The waves are washing the sand on this part of the island. Even the coconut palms are toppling over. The ground is being washed away from their roots. But on the other part of the island, the sand is being piled up. So the whole island is gradually moving along by over a meter a year.
These are wandering islands. Some have moved so far that ships wrecked on one side have been buried and emerged years later on the other side.
But there is treasure here. It's not gold and silver, but living jewels. And it's not on these islands, but in these sparkling waters.
The coral reefs around the islands are a treasure chest of vivid color. The corals that build these reefs are living organisms. Like many of the creatures they shelter, they rely on the currents to bring them their food. The bright colors of coral reef fish have a purpose. These powder blue surgeonfish graze on algae and they're highly territorial. Each pair has its own patch. Their body is a banner that signals keep out. This parrotfish hasn't got the message. On its own, it makes little impact on the surgeonfish's algal garden. But there's another grazer that can wreak havoc. A gang of convict tangs invade the powder blue's territory. The powder blues dash back and forth in an effort to drive them off, but the prison-striped marauders overwhelm them by sheer weight of numbers. Within seconds, the tangs strip the algae from the powder blue's territory. Like a plague of locusts, they move on to devastate someone else's garden. Where there are grazers, you find hunters. For predators like bluefin jacks, the reef is a paradise of bite-sized delights. With its shoals of hunters and hunted, a coral reef is like an underwater Serengeti. And even hunters can find themselves on someone else's menu. White-tipped reef sharks are the cheetahs of these waters. We often think of sharks as voracious killers, but they can go for days without eating. This one is just cruising, not hunting. It glides through the water like an aircraft. It can dive, climb, bank, and turn, as well as any fighter plane. As we sink down the face of the reef towards the deep, the scenery changes to a forest of delicate sea fans. "30 meters down, the seabed levels out. This is the realm of another hunter, the stingray. It's well named. A poisonous spine on its tail can paralyze or even kill an enemy. But it doesn't use it for hunting. It digs up mollusks and crustaceans and crushes them with its powerful jaws. And the bluefin jacks are back, shadowing the ray, ready to pounce on any shrimp or small fish that it flushes out. Garden eels dance and sway to the rhythm of the ocean current. With tails anchored, they can vanish into the sand if danger threatens. And danger forges strange alliances. These prawns share a home with gobies. The prawns are always shoveling sand. The gobies take advantage of any food the prawns unearth. In return, the fish keep a lookout. The prawns are almost blind, but they keep in touch with long antennae. Without their guardians, they would be helpless. Garden eels feed on tiny particles of plankton carried in the current. Only the risk of becoming someone else's dinner will interrupt this sinuous dance. As the ray glides over the sand, everything in her path beats a hasty retreat. The danger past, the eels resume feeding. But the ray hasn't gone. She seems to be waiting in ambush. Then something frightens her off. Her will come near. Lakshadweep's islands are islands of coconuts. For a few months a year, people set up temporary camps to harvest them. The palms provide food and drink, even matting to build homes. The history of the people is written in their faces. Arab and Indian features reflect the homelands of the early adventurers who first arrived on these islands of coral and coconut. There have been people here for over 1,000 years, but the islands have more ancient inhabitants. Land crabs, these specialized hermit crabs, are one of the few creatures that have a home on these wandering islands. The crabs are the island's cleaning service. Towards evening, they head for the beach to see what the tides have washed up. There's no knowing what the sea will bring. A good meal like this may have to be fought for. Land crabs scavenge almost anything, from dead fish to coconuts. The crab's claws may seem ungainly, but they can eat with surprising delicacy. Though they are well adapted to life on land, these crabs haven't quite broken their link with the sea. They have to return to the water to breed. As evening falls and the light fades, fish that are active during the day seek shelter among the corals. At night, the reef is far more dangerous. Turtle and stingray take a final snack. But for the sharks, the best is yet to come. As fish move, their muscles generate tiny bursts of electricity. Incredibly, sharks have a sixth electrical sense. For them, the dark of the reef is dotted with telltale pulses of energy. Moray eels are hunters too. During the day they lurk in rocky crevices, but at night they slink out to search the reef. Eel and shark seem to tolerate one another with barely controlled aggression. Another nightmare for little fish, a grouper. It hunts by stealth and swallows its prey whole. By sunrise, fishermen are out on the lagoon. For them, this is the start of a long day. They're fishing for tuna, but before they can catch them, they must first catch something else. They found a shoal of fusiliers. Now the divers spread out a fine net, and with the help of weights they sink it to the seabed. They use fish paste to attract these little fish into the net. With the bait fish on board, the boats leave the lagoon and head for the open sea. The fish are kept alive and fresh in flooded compartments. Finding tuna can take days, but the signs are there if you know what to look for. The plunging seabirds are taking fish scared to the surface by a shoal of tuna. Once the men have found a shoal, they hurl the bait fish back into the sea to attract the tuna. In the frenzy of feeding, the tuna grab anything, whether it's bait fish or bare hook. As each tuna is heaved into the air, it slips off the hook. Avoiding tangles takes split-second timing and a lifetime's experience. In 4.5 minutes, they've caught 91 fish. Further down the coast lives a very unique animal, the infamous Bombay duck. It might seem strange to be trying to catch ducks with a fishing net, but the Bombay duck isn't a bird at all, but a most peculiar sort of fish. This little fish is the basis of a huge industry that provides a livelihood for thousands of people. Although they live in shallow coastal waters, their rows of curved, needle-sharp teeth and enormous jaws make them look like a specialized deep-sea fish. The Bombay duck is a voracious predator able to swallow prey actually larger than its own body by stretching its stomach backwards. Dozens of boats come in during the Bombay duck season from September to May to unload their catch. The flesh of the Bombay duck is full of water and must be hung out on racks in their tens of thousands along the coast to dry. Once dry, they are taken into fish markets to be sold. Each year, over 100,000 tons of Bombay duck pass through the markets here. Some are used in India as a flavorful ingredient in curries, and others are shipped off to Indian restaurants around the world. South of Lakshadweep, the ocean currents run fast, and they bring a feast of plankton. The reef's resident fish are joined by more exotic visitors from the open sea. Manta rays can grow huge, up to 6.5 meters across the wings. To the seamen of old, they were devilfish, monsters that leapt on boats to enfold sailors in their wings and drag them down to a watery grave. But in fact, they are harmless plankton eaters like the whale shark. Mantas are usually solitary, but exceptionally, when ocean currents mix to yield a glut of food, they congregate in numbers. The currents that helped to bring the food for the mantas carried early adventurers round the southern tip of India. 2,000 years ago, the Romans established trading posts near present-day Madras. The Romans are long gone, but other visitors still flock to this coast. This is one of the few unspoiled stretches on the east coast of India. The shallow waters of Pulicat still attract birds of many kinds. Painted storks, egrets, ducks, flamingos, and pelicans all flock here to feast on the rich seafood cocktail. The pelicans aren't just here to fish for themselves. When they're fully laden, they take off and fly inland for some 40 kilometers. This is Nilapattu, the largest pelicanry in southern Asia. Every year, nearly 1,500 pelicans arrive to breed in this noisy, crowded colony. When the chicks are young, their parents simply regurgitate the fish they have brought. But the youngsters' beaks and appetites grow at an enormous rate. Within weeks, the business becomes a stomach-churning battle as the chicks dig even deeper to get at the food. The chicks grow fast. After 2 months, they are fully feathered. Soon they will fly the nest and the colony will fall silent until the cycle begins all over again. On the next leg of our voyage, we leave the pelicans and sail east towards the sunrise and the last of our island landfalls. This is a land that time has passed by. Even today, some of its people still resist contact with the 20th century.
"1,200 kilometers from the east of mainland India and far out into the Bay of Bengal lie a mysterious chain of over 300 islands. These are the tips of a submerged mountain range. They are the Andamans and Nicobar.
Some of these islands are virtually unexplored, but the waters in between are a sea of surprises. In mid-afternoon, the elephants take to the ocean. Mahouts guide them through the water by pressing a foot behind the ears. These are working elephants. Sometimes they swim a kilometer or more between islands. This is a family group. If the youngster gets tired, its mother and aunt will be there to support it. The islands are still heavily forested. Elephants are used to haul timber, which is ruthlessly exploited. Despite these alarming pressures, the islands still embrace some of the most pristine expanses of rainforest in India. The islands were once a part of Southeast Asia, but they've been isolated for 60 million years. During that time, creatures have evolved here that are found nowhere else in the world. Like the one that made this great mound of sand. The Nicobar megapode. This extraordinary bird incubates its eggs in a most remarkable way. It buries them in this gigantic compost heap. The heat of the sand and the rotting vegetation are sufficient to hatch them, and the bird can regulate the temperature by adding or removing material. But the megapodes are not alone in the forest. If they leave their mound unguarded, the monitor lizard will move in. The monitor makes short work of the megapode's clutch. But that's not the end of the story. The lizard has one more trick up its scaly sleeve. Cuckoo-like, it lays its own eggs inside the mound. When the birds return, they continue regulating the temperature of the mound. But down below, it's not their eggs that are incubating. The eggs hatch into lizards. The scaly interlopers dig their way out of the mound, much to the confusion of the birds. From the lush green of these island forests, we return to the unknown seas. In May, before the monsoon arrives, sudden squalls can blow up in a matter of hours. As the squall builds up, rain falls in torrents. Soon the land is drenched and a host of strange creatures emerge into the darkness. These scorpions are flushed out of their homes as their burrows become waterlogged. Even snakes are disturbed from their homes. In the morning, the squall passes away as quickly as it appeared. The tropical waters of the Andaman Sea are perfect for coral growth. These must be among the most colorful reefs in the world. Within this dazzling array of life, there's constant competition to populate every available space. All over the reef, eggs are being laid and cared for. A triggerfish stands guard over her eggs, fanning them to ensure a constant flow of oxygenated water. A clownfish has eggs too, but in this case it's the male that cares for them. Every possible surface seems smothered. A twig of coral is coated with damselfish eggs. This fish is also a male. He guards the eggs against predators. A pair of cuttlefish perform a stately dance. The female is looking for suitable crevices to lay her eggs. Her mate shadows her every move. If another male appears, he chases it off. he must ensure that only he fertilizes the eggs. The female forms her tentacles into a tube and inserts the eggs deep into the reef. She'll lay about 300 altogether. The eggs have been carefully cemented onto the walls of the crevice. They'll be safe in here until they hatch. Out in the open sea, turtles are courting too. There's stiff competition between the males. Even when they are joined together, other males may try to prise them apart. Turtles can hold their breath for 5 hours, but mating can go on for as long as 6, so they have to come up for air. For 20 years or more, these turtles will have roamed the oceans of the world. Only now, after mating, will the female come ashore for the first time in her adult life. With unerring accuracy, she heads for the beach where she was born all those years ago, a tiny spit of land on the shores of the Bay of Bengal.
This empty beach on the east coast of India is home to one of the most extraordinary natural history events in the world. 7 weeks ago, under the cover of darkness, tens of thousands of female olive ridley turtles came ashore to lay their eggs. Some years, over 600,000 emerged from the sea to nest in this narrow stretch of coastline. Now, 50 days later, under a full moon and half a meter under the ground, the eggs hatch. Over the next few nights, millions of baby turtles will scamper out and hurtle towards the sea.
On some nights, the flood of infant turtles rushing seawards meets a new wave of adults lumbering up the beach to lay their eggs. The new generation are dwarfed by their elders. For some, this is a lethal encounter. But for every one that's crushed or buried, countless thousands survive. Heading for the gleam of moonlight on the surf, the hatchlings march down the beach. When they reach the sea, the infant turtles vanish into the waves. By morning, the beach is nearly empty. A new generation of baby turtles have started their great journey into the unknown seas of India. They will voyage for 20 years over thousands and thousands of kilometers before returning as adults to nest once more at this very site. Whilst our journey has ended, another great voyage is about to begin.
To learn more about what you've seen on this nature program, visit PBS online at www.pbs.org.
Here in the northwestern corner of the Indian subcontinent, it may not rain for many years. Temperatures can soar to above 50 degrees centigrade. And to deal with this harsh climate, plants and animals have extraordinary adaptation. In the next program, discover the secrets of the great Indian desert.
Land of the Tiger is available on home video cassette for $19.95 or $89.95 for the 6-part series. To order, call 1-800-336-1917 or write to the address on your screen. Please specify episode title. Major funding for nature is provided by the Park Foundation, dedicated to education and quality television. Major corporate support is made possible by Canon in our dedication to the preservation of nature and its never-ending beauty. In photographs, you can capture the wild and leave it as you found it. By Ford Motor Company, our new vehicles are made with more than 2 million tons of recycled metals, enough to build 250 Eiffel Towers a year. Ford Motor Company, better ideas driven by you. And by TIAA-CREF, meeting your personal investing needs with mutual funds, tuition savings plans, investments for retirement, insurance, and more. TIAA-CREF, ensuring the future for those who shape it. And by annual financial support from viewers like you.